Hello, fellow explorers. What is coming up for you spiritually right now? How are you blocked? How can you negotiate these blockages? What's coming up with your shadow right now that's blocking you? And how, most importantly, can you release these blockages to best nourish the spiritual side of yourself? Let's go ahead and jump into this timeless tarot pick a card reading. Hello again, so nice to see you. Welcome to the Mystic Lemur. My name is Rita, and it is my honor to be your guide through the messages in this reading today. For today, we are having a look at what are the spiritual blocks that are coming up for you right now. What's the status of your spirit? How is it interacting with your shadow? And how, most importantly, can you work through this blockage, release it, heal it, and best nourish yourself? So we have 3 piles for today. We have pile number 1, pile number 2, and pile number 3. That is pile number 1, pile number 2, and pile number 3. So to help you best situate yourself to be able to receive the messages of this reading, let's go ahead and find our comfortable seated position so we can begin to align mind, body, and spirit. Let the inner knowing, the inner being, intuitive knowing step forward. Finding that comfortable seated position either into a chair or onto the floor, anywhere where you can begin to sit with a stacked spine, connecting the feet, legs, sits bones deep into the earth. Imagining roots shooting out through the feet, through the legs, through the sits bones, deeply rooting into the nourishing energy of Mother Earth beneath you, pulling that nourishment up through those roots, shooting it out through that stacked spine, out through the glowing crown of your head, and shooting it out, glowing it out through that open heart. Taking 3 deep, mindful breaths to help orient to the pile or piles that speak to you. We'll start with a big belly breath in. And exhale. Big belly breath in. And exhale. One more big breath in. And exhale to release. Okay, narrowing in, zoning in now on whichever pile or piles speak to you today. Again, as this is a timeless reading, whichever pile speaks to you on this viewing, please honor that impulse and do know that you are always your best guide. So take what resonates and leave what doesn't. If you feel like you need a few more moments to zero in on the pile, go ahead and pause the video right here. We're going to go ahead and jump on into group number 1. All right, jumping on into group number 1. Group number 1, what's the status of your spirit? How's your shadow affecting that? What are the blockages that are coming up from this? And how can you get rid of those? So, first of all, where are you in this? How are you situated right now, group number 1? We have 6 of Swords. All right, so you are in a space where you are coming into tranquility. So the 6 of Swords is all about going from turbulence to calm. And in this particular card, we've got a lot of green energy. So there's a lot of heart activation going on and really aligning the mind with the heart, as the sword suit in the minor arcana is all about mental energy. And what is the status of your spirit right now, group number 1? We have the 2 of Pentacles. All right, so your spirit is looking to be quite balanced. The major meaning of the 2 of Pents is, of course, balance, especially with the physical domain. And, you know, the imagery of this card, we've got a lot of this yellow willpower, manipura. So not only is your mind and your heart coming into alignment, but with your spirit's also tapping into that willpower and bringing balance in the way that you're exerting your spirit in your physical domain with that Pentacles energy. So how's your shadow doing right now, group number 1? What might be bubbling up from your shadow? We have the 8 of Chalices in reverse, so a very shadowy card. Looking at this in the upright position, this is a card that's all about stepping away from things that no longer serve you, taking that dive into the depths, taking that dive into the shadowy unknown, taking this long journey through the night to let go of those things that don't serve anymore. So coming up in reverse, and as this is indicative of your shadow, it could be that there is something that you are being called to evaluate, to maybe step away from, but the shadow is giving you this indication, because what you're looking for is you're looking for balance, you're looking for tranquility in the mind, the heart, and the willpower, the physical body, but the shadow is still like pulling you away from that thing that you really just don't need anymore. So you're possibly experiencing some kind of gripping onto something that you're feeling like you're not quite ready to let go of. All right, so what is the blockage that you're dealing with right now, group number one? So honing in on what's going on for you, group number one, we have the Ace of Chalices, One of Chalices. So the blockage you're having here is with your emotional body. Yeah. So shadow is coming up with chalices, and again your mind, to your heart to some extent, and your willpower, your body is coming into alignment, into balance, but the blockage you're still having is there's something in your emotions, possibly more of a negative emotion that you're dealing with that is not super fun and is not serving you anymore. So what you can look to, group number one, to help heal and resolve this blockage, we have the Knight of Wands. All right, so the Knight of Wands, this is all about bringing the mind. So the Knights in the minor arcana represent the combination of air and whatever the suit they are represented in. So Wands is about fire, so this is the combination of air and fire. So really breathing more of this connection between what you're doing with your willpower and balancing your willpower in your physical domain with how you're using this tranquil mind state. So bringing that willpower to how your mind is operating within exploring what's happening with these emotions. And finally, what can we offer to you, group number one, as advice for how you can best nourish yourself spiritually right now? We have the Four of Swords in reverse. Very interesting. Okay, so the Four of Swords, this is another, again, more of the mind coming through here. Four of Swords has a similarity to the Six of Swords in that it's about coming to rest, coming to a mental rest. And the fours in the minor arcana are also the most stable number in the suit. They're all about laying down a firm foundation. Again, coming up under this balance here, and coming up in reverse, this may be an indication that you are experiencing some overactivity in the mind, or because this is about the opposite of bringing your mind to rest, it would be activating your mind to come into these parts that you're avoiding. So if you're actively avoiding, or if something's popping up, especially again if it's a negative emotion, this negative emotion, maybe you're in a space where you're getting into manifestation and you're very aware that thoughts are things and thoughts create the experience in your life, and something's negative is popping up, but this negative idea or this negative thing that keeps popping up from your shadow is something that's popping up for you because it needs to be resolved, and it's something to do with a new direction in emotion. Another meaning for the one of the minor arcana suits is the root of the zodiac sign of these elements. So the root of water would be something to do with Cancer energy, Scorpio energy, again with that shadow, or Pisces energy. So the historical time when this reading is being offered, we're just on the tail end of that very intense lunar eclipse, full moon lunar eclipse in Cancer. So it could be that something is bubbling up from whatever was brought to the surface in that full moon cycle. These eclipses can keep playing out in our lives for months afterwards. So have a look to whatever your memory of that time. So that would be 10-11 January-ish, 2020. Have a look at what was going on for you there, and really allow your mind to go to those things. So don't fixate on it in the sense of ruminating, but really just sort of sit in accepting equanimity. Just observe the feelings rather than just pushing that back down. Don't bottle up, especially negative emotions. They'll still keep coming up, and they'll be disturbing your tranquility. They'll be disturbing your balance. So allow, especially if this is something that's more of a negative emotion, allow it to be there. greet it as a friend, but don't attach to it. So if it's sadness, hello sadness, my old friend, what have you come to teach me today? Hello anger, my old friend, what have you come to teach me today? And just notice it, listen to it. So bring your mind into service of how that energy is directing itself with the emotions, because the emotions are telling you about something. If this is fear, this is something that's telling you about a thing that needs to be resolved or needs to be approached, needs to be conquered. So if you're going for that more Manipura, solar plexus, willpower angle, something that you need to approach and sort of like take the leap on. So some final additional context. What's the background of all of this? We have the Lovers. Very interesting. Okay, so this is our only major arcana energy in this reading for you, group number 1. And so the archetypical energy here is you might be being asked to make a choice. So the choice that you're being asked to make, or something to do with how you are expressing yourself in love, group number 1, your perhaps some intention, some manifestation that you're trying to do, group number 1, is to manifest your perfect relationship or your ideal relationship into your life. But there's still some history of how you've been in relationships, and especially I'm getting, think about how you have been in previous relationships. So not just what other people have done or done to you, but like how were you showing up and how were you projecting and producing the events within previous relationships, or within if you haven't had a relationship of that caliber yet, other sorts of intense relationships like family relationships or deep friendships that may have come up, and sort of really having a look at what you're doing to make sure that you are able to be the most agentic and the most able to get the best out of your situation. And our words of healing wisdom for you, group number 1, so more of that shadowy dark forest energy. We have, you are an I. Use this higher aspect of yourself to redeem your shadow aspects. That's exactly what I was saying. So the I is the observer, right? So in yoga philosophy, we get this idea of the neti niti, the not this, not that. So when you pare away all of the things of your ego, that is just sort of the stories that you tell about yourself, if you can pare away all of those things that are your identity and really just get down to the core, if you ask yourself when you feel an emotion or when you tell yourself a story about what you're experiencing, who is the I that is observing? That I that is observing is basically the real you. The you that doesn't change in all of these various things that cycle through our lives. So going back to that space of just observing and letting the truth of what's being brought to you through the triggers that the emotions are bringing to you. So the emotions are tagging experiences for you to bring your attention to it. So notice that, and just listen, just watch, just observe, and see how things begin to shift. Because when you get more of this energy of observation, you can point out things that you can walk away from and say, oh, I actually don't need to be telling myself this story that I'm not beautiful. Like, why are you gonna, take yourself out of the game before you've even tried, right? So especially if you've got limiting beliefs that are coming up, really letting that observation kick in and just let them bubble to the surface so that you can release them. Right, those are the messages that I have for you, group number 1. Group number 1. Oh, that's very glary. Nope. Let's try it down here. There we go. Nicer. Anyway, that is the message that I have for you, group number 1. Thank you so much for letting me be your guide this evening, this reading, and I do hope to see you again very soon. And until such time as that happens, we're going to go ahead and go on to group number 2. Okay. Group number two, what's going on with your spirit right now, group number 2? What's happening in your shadow that might be producing some blockages around that spiritual growth? How can you heal it? How can you absolve it? How can you release that blockage and best nourish your spirit? All right, how are you currently showing up, group number 2? You are the Ace of Swords. So this Ace of Swords, the aces in the minor arcana are the root of the zodiac energies, are the signs that have that flavor, that elemental flavor. So this could be an indication that you are an air sign, that would be a Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius. Or it could be that you are currently embodying those energies. So very quick of wit, very keen to balance and engage in romantic relationships or close partnerships, or the revolutionary spirit. And how is your spirit showing up right now, group number 2? You have the Two of Wands. So the Two of Wands, your spirit is currently, again, in a space of balance, and it's balancing out your energy. So the twos in the minor arcana are just that step below that root up in the spirit level. So this could also be an indication that you're integrating from your spirit more of this fire energy. So the wands are the element of fire, which represents both your energetic body or your energetic field and your spirit. So your spirit is coming to a space of balance, and with the Two of Wands, this also speaks about planning. So you're doing a lot of sort of looking ahead, planning ahead, and in this imagery we have a man who's looking into this orb. It reminds me a lot of crystal divination, so it could be that you're sort of looking back to the past, how your spirit has been, to sort of project into how things are going to go in the future. And what is going on with your shadow right now, group number 2? We have the Knave of Pentacles in reverse. So the Knave of Pentacles, this is a message all about taking a new direction, especially in your physical domain. And then again, in the court cards of the minor arcana, the knave or the page is bringing the earthly energy to whatever of the suit, the element of the suit is. So Pentacles is about earth, and the knave or the page is also about earth. So really grounding and bringing that new direction in your physical energy or your physical well-being. So that could be finances, it could be your house, taking that into a new direction, but coming up in a block, coming up as the shadow, coming up in reverse. So it is representing your shadow and coming up in reverse, could be indicating that you are being encouraged to take this leap, take this new direction, or accept that your physical experience is beginning to pivot, and you're not in a space where you're quite ready to let that happen, because it feels like it's associated with those parts of you that you're not quite ready to fully love yet. Getting the indication that this could be to do with aging for some of you. So your body is starting to change in ways that you don't fully appreciate, and that's giving you some difficulty in allowing this full scope of how your spirit is evolving along with how your body is evolving to come through. This could also be generally just some gripping onto something in your physical experience. The time of this reading, we're doing this in Capricorn season, so it could be something to do with the way that you make your money. It could be that your career is taking another direction that you're not sure you're ready to follow. So if any of that's resonating, go ahead and take what suits, leave what doesn't. What is going on in this blockage? What's the blockage that you're facing right now, group number 2? We have the Knave of Swords. So again, this is another court card. Now in the mind space, the swords, the suit of swords represents the air, the mind. And as I was saying for group number 1, the knave, excuse me, this is the knave. Again, I was reading this as a knight because it looks a lot like a knight. Anyway, so there could be some of you who is also getting more of that knight energy, but for the knave or the page of swords coming up as your block, so you need to bring your mind to whatever this shadow aspect of your physical domain is coming up for you, because your mind is not serving you at this moment. It needs to take another direction. And what can you do, group number 2, to heal and release this blockage? We have the 8 of Pentacles in reverse. Yep. So I said for someone who's watching this might have to do with your career. So the 8 of Pentacles is all about productivity, all about how you create things in this particular image, a very industrious way. The 8s in the minor arcana are also representative of our mind, how our mind works. We also have 8 here. The numerology of 8 is manifestation. Coming up in reverse, this might again be indicating that some of you are kind of running on the rat wheel, like you're working too hard and you're not really getting enough out of it. It's draining you. It's really draining your energy. It's not serving you anymore. And you need to take a look at how it is that you're expressing this productivity, and who is it serving? Are you just being busy for the sake of being busy? Because it might be blocking that direction that your mind needs to take. And it might be, you know, this like, you need to reinvent how you've been doing your career, how you've been doing your life in the way that you're producing money. You need to really rethink that, because it's bringing in this Aquarius energy. We need time to revolutionize. These things are no longer serving. It's not working anymore. I'm reminded of Greta Thunberg. You know, these myths of unending, expanding economic growth. It's a myth. It's killing us. So stop killing yourself. That's definitely a particular message for someone, but if it's resonating, do tune in. So what can you do, group number 2, to really nourish your spirit in this time as you're taking your attention to releasing this block? We have the 5 of Chalices in reverse. So the 5s in the Minor Arcana are challenge cards. These are things that are challenging. We have this emotional energy from the cups representing water and the emotions. The image here, we have this man who's looking out over this river, looking quite wistful, maybe even nostalgic, and seems to be sad that he's lost these empty 3 cups in the Rider-Waite deck. The images of these cups being spilled, but he's not looking at what he still has, right? So he's got these 2 that are still sitting behind his back, and he's not really fully acknowledging all that he has present to him. So there's this sense of longing and sadness at what has passed coming up in reverse. How you can heal this is, again, coming up under this 2 of Wands with that sort of energy of looking to the past to see the future. Let go of the past. Look to what is still ahead of you. If this was resonating for anyone who is going through a physical body change and how your body is continuing to evolve, your identity might be evolving as well. So, you know, you're stepping into a new phase of your life, and you know, change can be scary, but change is also, at 5, the numerology of 5 is about change. Releasing your anxiety around this change and allowing it to just flow. So the background context energy for you, group number 2, we have the moon in reverse. Gracious. Okay, so the moon card in this deck is very evocative of Cancer, or, you know, the zodiac sign of Cancer. We got the crab here, and then the House of Cancer is ruled by the moon. This particular card is meant to be ruled by Pisces, which is another water sign. But, I mean, the imagery on this card is just overwhelmingly Cancer energy. And the full moon here, so coming up in reverse, the context of when this reading is being offered is right after that massive lunar eclipse in the full moon in Cancer. So whatever this anxiety or this blockage is that's being brought up to you, group number 2, very likely is related to what popped up for you in that full moon. So thinking back to what happened around the 10th or 11th of January, something that may have come into your awareness or started to manifest into your life at that time may be affecting you in this way right now. And this is one of the blockages that may have become apparent to you, sort of bubbled up from the subconscious, because the lunar eclipses are all about more of the emotional, internal transformations. So some internal transformation that has come to your attention that should be released to help you evolve and to help you grow. And finally, words of healing wisdom for you, group number 2. This beautiful card. We have develop awe and reverence for life. Yeah. So I definitely see that being relevant to anyone who may be going through physical changes, you know, a body that's changing through advances in life experience, through advances in aging, or if you've just, you know, like maybe you're newly a parent and that's completely changed your life. Your body is beginning to change because of a new way of eating or a new way of living. And also if you're keeping busy for the sake of being busy. take a moment to step back and develop awe, develop reverence, really look at the beauty of the mundane things around you. The more that you set the intention to see the beauty in all things that lies just below the surface, the more it will reveal itself to you. So setting that intention to see the beauty in yourself, to see the beauty in the world around you, to see the beauty as this process unfolds for you as your life begins to shift and change, even if it's scary, that will help you really step into nourishing your spirit and releasing this blockage, so again, so that you can evolve and be the best you that you can be. So those are the messages I have for you, group number 2. Group number 2, thank you so much for letting me be your guide through this reading. I do hope to see you again very soon. And until that time, we're going to go ahead and go on to group number 3. Group number 3. What is going on in your spirit right now, group number 3? What's the sort of shadow elements that might be coming up? How are you experiencing blockages? How can you release and heal them to be your best self, to really spiritually evolve at this time, group number 3? So first, how are you showing up right now, group number 3? We have the Queen of Wands. All right, so you are sitting in a space where you are the ruler of your domain in more of a feminine energy of how you are expressing your energetic self, and also with the wands representing fire, that's both your energetic body and your spirit. So really being in control of how you distribute your energy, and being aware of how your spirit is being directed to different things. So your sort of overall status right now is really being in rulership of yourself in a way that's more receptive than agentic, and more being in that space of seeking to nurture rather than to provide structure, because that's more of the feminine energy rather than the masculine energy. So the masculine energy would be more pushing, more agentic, more sort of like providing the structure. The time in history with this reading being offered is really a very big invitation for the entire world to have a look at how gender relationships have been going, and especially how that structures power, so how power is being structured in general. So this could also be that you are stepping into a space where you're thinking about how power structures can be more aligned to that divine feminine. So it's more of a higher level spiritual reading in that sense, but how can power structures be more nurturing? How can power structures be more compassionate? How can power structures be more empathetic? More of that sort of thing. So both how you are using your personal energy to be more nurturing and empathetic, and also how that can be manifest in the wider societal structures that you interact with. So group number 2, what's the status of your, group number 3, what is the status of your spirit right now, group number 3? We have the King of Swords in reverse. Very interesting. Yep. That's driving for sure. So the King of Swords, this is the masculine mastery of the mind. So as I was saying, with the context in history that we are sitting in right now, there is definitely a call to consider what the patriarchy is doing for us and how much of it we need to maintain. So your spirit, the current status quo in the world at the time of this reading is mind dominant. So the swords, the air meant the energy of the mind, and also male dominant. So coming up in reverse, your spirit is in a space where you are thinking again about that dominance and use only of the mind, whether there's more than just mind and the sort of mental body that is valid in producing the world around us, and also whether or not the masculine, so the more the agentic, the more structuring way of doing things is the only way to go forward. So what's happening with your shadow right now, group number 3? We have Judgment in reverse. Very interesting. All right, so the Judgment card, major arcana energy here. So this is archetypal activation happening. We have this in the upright. This is 20. So the time that this reading is being offered is at the beginning of 2020. And Judgment, this is evoking we have the imagery here of, so we have these spirits who are in the grave and who are being called to rise by this angel who's trumpeting the horn. And the angel is this color blue that reminds me of Krishna. Krishna is one of those elevated masters, or one of those Hindu gods in the Hindu pantheon, who is associated with Christ's energy. So you could also read this as Christ's energy, or the Judgment Day, this call to be more Christ-like and to tap into that Christ energy, that space of being, the compassionate, nurturing, seeing through the eyes of endless, boundless, non-contextual love, right? And another thing that this card always reminds me of is, when you're in those moments where you've been trying really hard. Again, this is a reading about how your spirit is doing, and you're doing your work, you're doing your inner work, and you feel like, I'm trying so hard to release this block and to release this problem that's been going on for me, and I feel like I've been trying, I've been making progress. And then if you go to pick a card readings often, or if you get other sort of messages from spirit, and you just keep getting the same message, like, keep going, it's not there yet, keep going, it's not there yet. Like, you're trying to come to balance, and you're like, okay, well, I'll get more sleep, and I'll drink more water, and I'll call my mom more, or I call my parents more, I'll call my siblings more. So like, you're really doing the work to come into balance, and you just keep getting that message, like, keep going to balance, keep going to balance. It's like, well, what more do you want from me, spirit, right? Like, that's the kind of imagery I get here. Like, that moment when you're just like, I've been trying so dang hard, and you're still doing this long dark night of the soul thing. You keep pulling away things from me. Like, what more do you want from me? So that's kind of the imagery I get from the Judgment card. It's also a card that is ruled by fire. So more of that spirit and energy of maybe even purging. Could also be relevant to Australia. At the time of this reading, Australia is on fire, to put it lightly, or to put it bluntly. So coming up in reverse, there is possibly something that you are being called to bring more compassionate and I keep forgetting that word, so it must not be the word that I'm supposed to say. Some more compassionate energy to something that you are not fully ready to embrace. And also developing discernment. So there's something, the Judgment card also reminds me of discernment. So there's something that you're not allowing to come to the surface. There's something that you're keeping buried to do with this compassion. So your spaces that you're looking to use more of this feminine approach to how energy is being exerted, releasing that sort of mind dominant structuring, but there's still this space of there's something that still needs to be purged, that is being bubbled up in your subconscious, that is trying to maybe even come down as a download, because it's coming up in the reverse. So there's some kind of download that you're being offered. So there's some kind of insight that you're being offered, and you're not quite catching it, because it's coming in through this part of yourself that you're not really fond of yet. All right, group number 3. What is the blockage that you're experiencing right now? We have the Empress in reverse. Very interesting. All right, so the Empress, this is the Lakshmi card, again, coming up Major Arcana underneath this shadow element. The Lakshmi card, the Mother Earth goddess, she's ruled by Venus, so all about luxury and fecundity, fertility, having a beautiful, productive, abundant life. Coming up in reverse, the blockage you are having here is possibly in truly, deeply embracing that divine feminine. So this is, again, another card that would be evocative of the divine feminine, and especially the fertility aspect of it, so that growth, nurturing element of it. So coming up in reverse, the blockage that you're having is something to do with how you are embracing that feminine aspect of who you are. And especially the divine feminine is complex. So if this is Lakshmi, the sort of the shadow side of the divine feminine could be Kali Ma. So that, like, Kali Ma would be the goddess who is that scary part of Mother Nature. As I said, this card being the Judgment card being ruled by fire. The context of when this reading is being offered, Australia is going through some pretty intense bushfires, probably some of the worst in many years, maybe decades, maybe generations. It's pretty clear. Doesn't matter what your politics are, that it's a pretty hard situation, and so that fire is bringing our attention to things that we don't want to take our attention to. So where you're feeling this this energetic push is bringing your attention to some part of how your inner feminine aspect is not being nourished and is blocking you because you're not allowing that. So fire could be that there's some rage, like Kali Ma, she is the embodiment of rage, and righteous indignation. But depending on where you are in the world, could be that your righteous indignation, it's kind of like it's something that needs to be tempered. It can be addictive, and that was definitely a thing that was present in many of the election cycles that have happened in the past 3 years. Is I'm getting a lot of like really major stuff, major like soul type energy from this group number 3. So like whatever's coming up for you, this is possibly something that's been present in big themes in your life, and it has been around for the past 3 years or so. That's really what I'm getting from this. But yeah, that divine feminine righteous indignation, wrath at experiencing evil. So the evil from the patriarchy, the evil from the way that things have been done, that is so mind dominant, that is so restrictive, that is so reductionistic, not seeing things holistically, not really taking people as whole beings, but really just sort of like making them numbers. Anything that might be resonating for you in that sort of like indignation at evil is possibly coming up as a blockage, because anger is still a shadowy emotion for lots of people, and myself included. When I was younger, my friends and I used to joke that we would each be representative of the 7 deadly sins, and I would be wrath because I definitely have a lot of that Kali Ma, like righteous indignation. How dare you do this unjust thing? So very much aligned with that. It could also just be an indication of some fire sign energy, so Sagittarius, Aries, Leo, something to do with that way that the energy is being expressed. It could be that you are pulling that up in a way that's unbalanced. So being more domineering or more arrogant or too impulsive, any of those things that might be resonating for you. But yeah, I'm definitely getting like wrath and needing to purge it through fire. So what can we offer you, group number 3, as some advice for how you can heal and release this blockage and move forward in your spiritual evolution? We have the Chariot in reverse. Again, tons of major arcana energy for you, group number 3. So this is big stuff that's happening. And again, the history of this time when this reading is being offered, like big stuff is coming up for a lot of people. So the Chariot is a card that is ruled by Cancer, ruled by water, and really allowing for intuitive knowing and divine impulsion to act. So acting on that intuitive pull, and an indication that it will be in a successful sort of intuitive leap that you might be taking. Coming up in reverse, the recommendation for how you can heal yourself is to turn that inner impulse of water, cooling off that fire in you. yeah, that's what I'm getting. So turning that nurturing, watery energy to activate yourself internally. So if this fire has been consuming you because you've been projecting it outward, you've been like breathing fire at people and it's just like burning you out, turn that water faucet on. Come to maybe even literally go to a place where you can be near a body of water. In Ayurveda, the different sort of body types that we have are Pitta, Vata, and Kapha. So Pittas, I'm getting a lot of Pitta energy on this reading. Pittas are people who are dominated by water and fire. So water and fire don't really get along in the elemental sense, but they're really good to balance each other out. And Pitta people tend to be very fire sign energy, very, brash, and they want things done exactly on time, and they want things done exactly right. And, type A personality, Pitta person here, full disclosure. Also sun fire sign, so there you go. So, however this energy has been, like breathing fire, Kali Ma energy projecting outward, bring it back to that place of sort of like soothing it down, calming it down, turn the damper on it just a bit, the damper on it just a bit, to really bring it back down to a dull roar, because burnout serves no one. And your anger will only get you so far. It's very understandable, especially if it's relevant to environmental issues, as I keep talking about Australia, or relevant to something that's happening in your local community if you're not in Australia, or not local to the fires in Australia. You'll gain more support. You'll attract more flies with honey than with vinegar. And really, the way to defeat evil is not to push more anger on it, not to push harder on it, not through resistance, but through love. Love is the only thing that's going to beat this. So finding some space to come back to that nurturing, loving energy, and really stepping into more of that feminine, compassionate angle to continue pushing that fiery agenda, but in a way that is twisted just a bit. So it's not trying to burn everything up, but instead just trying to purge the things that are not needed anymore, and really pour the nourishing water to continue growing those things that are needed. And finally, what can we offer to you, group number 3, as advice for how you can best nourish your spirit right now? We have the Queen of Swords. Wow, this is a very synchronistic reading. Okay, so the Queen of Swords, she is the divine feminine aspect of the mental body. So if you're releasing that structure, that need for control, and that need for lots of like the institutions of how you've done your mental work up until now, shifting into more of that receptive mode in your mind, and again looking more towards how you can combine your fire with your mind through this more divine feminine receptive energy. And the background context to what's going on for you, group number 3, we have the Hermit in reverse. Yeah, all court cards, all major arcana, huge stuff going on for you, group number 3. So the Hermit in Hermit card is all about sort of that cocooning phase when you're going through a transformation, and really just taking some time out to be by yourself. It's also ruled by Virgo, and Virgo is all about very discreet set plans. Coming up in reverse, the background energy for you, group number 3, is releasing that Virgo energy. Like, it's okay if it's not perfect. It's okay if it's not perfectly structured. If you resonate with being a type A personality, letting go of that need to be perfect, letting go of that need to have it be tightly controlled and really clearly defined. I'm thinking of the YouTuber Jenna Marbles, and she always jokes, I'm a Virgo, and her partner is an Aries, and they're like oil and water, but they've been together for years and they work really well. But she always, like, when she gets nervous about things because they're not discreet and they're not really clear and not perfect and not well ordered, she gets really anxious about that. So letting go of that anxiety, letting go of that need for things to be well ordered, because they won't be well ordered for a while. Things are going into big shifts, things are going into big changes, and you need to be willing to roll with it. All right, our words of healing wisdom for you, group number 3. We have this dark sea here. So as I was saying, get yourself to a body of water if you can. And if I didn't say that, that's what I meant to say, so I just said it now. If you got all this fire energy running amok, come back to the water. Try to avoid harmful influences. Yep, so if the news is really getting you down, if the news is really firing up your divine, feminine, righteous indignation in a really unhelpful way, turn it off. Simple as that. You are possibly here to be a warrior for the light. And that is exactly what you need to be doing, but you need to be sure that you are targeting that energy in a productive fashion. So making sure that you are keeping, again, like avoiding being overwhelmed, avoiding burnout, by really targeting how you're going to sort of, instead of having it be like a spray of fire, like a general just like firestorm, just have it be a very targeted jet of fire. I hope that makes sense. I'm thinking of the image of the dragons in Game of Thrones, and like they could they could, if they wanted to, they could take out one soldier. They didn't need to take out the whole battalion, right? So like, don't take out the whole battalion, just really be precise with the way that you are using your energy. And again, if something's habitually getting you down in a way that's really lowering your vibration, it's stealing your power. If you're letting that continue to lower your vibration, it's taking away your power. So step away from it. Come back to your heart. Your heart is where your home is. Come back home. Stay in that heart space. Feel through this and look for that higher perspective on how things are happening. Because there is always a lesson, whatever is coming. So how can you integrate the lesson without being burnt by it? All right, group number 3. These are the messages I have for you. Thank you so much for allowing me to be your guide through these readings, group number 3. And I do hope to see you again very soon. I would encourage you, if this resonated for you, to leave a comment down below, maybe give this video a like, and if it really hit your vibe, maybe also give it a subscribe. And I hope to see you again very soon. Until then, go in peace to love and to serve. Namaste.